Salam sejahtera, selamat datang diucapkan kepada para hadirin ke Inspiration Forum Medicine, Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Di sini terdapat beberapa pengumuman penting untuk perhatian para hadirin. Hadirin dijemput untuk mengambil tempat duduk dengan memenuhi ruang hadapan sebelum majlis dimulakan. Majlis akan bermula sebentar sahaja lagi. Mohon para hadirin untuk memastikan telefon bimbit berada dalam keadaan mod senyap sepanjang majlis berlangsung. Para hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri semasa diumumkan ketibaan masuk tetamu kehormat serta nyanyian lagu negaraku dan Putra gemilang. Para hadirin dimohon untuk bersama-sama mengalunkan bacaan Asmaul Husna semasa majlis diadakan. Akhir sekali, sekiranya berlaku sebarang kecemasan, mohon para hadirin untuk bertenang dan mengikut arahan petugas. Kerjasama semua amat dihargai. Sekian, terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Selamat datang diucapkan kepada para hadirin ke Inspiration Forum Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Di sini terdapat beberapa pengumuman untuk perhatian para hadirin. Hadirin dijemput untuk mengambil tempat duduk dengan memenuhi ruang hadapan sebelum majlis dimulakan. Majlis akan dimulakan sebentar sahaja lagi. Mohon para hadirin memastikan telefon bimbit berada dalam keadaan mood senyap sepanjang majlis berlangsung. Para hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri semasa diumumkan ketibaan masuk tetamu kehormat serta nyanyian lagu Negaraku dan Putra Gemilang. Para hadirin juga dimohon untuk bersama-sama mengalunkan bacaan Asmaul Husna semasa majlis. Akhir sekali, sekiranya berlaku sebarang kecemasan, mohon para hadirin untuk bertenang dan mengikut arahan petugas. Kerjasama semua amat dihargai. Sekian, terima kasih. Mengumumkan ketibaan yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Jailani Johari, Pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti Putra Malaysia, diiringi div-div kehormat.
Nyanyian lagu Negaraku dan Putra Gemilang.
Nasamu bencana kemajuan.
Hadirin dipersilakan duduk. Alunan Asmaul Husna.
Nas'aluka ya man huwa Allahu alladhi la ilaha illa huwa ar-Rahmanur Rahim al-Malikul Quddusus Salamul Mu'minul Muhaiminul Azizul Jabbar al-Mutakabbirul Khaliqul Bari'ul Musawwirul Ghaffar al-Qahharul Wahhabur Razzaqul Fattahul Alim al-Qabidul Basitul Khafid al-Rafi'ul Mu'izzul Muzil Sami'ul Basirul Hakamul Al-Latiful Khabir Al-Halimul Azim Al-Ghafurul Shakur Al-Aliyul Kabirul Hafizul Muqim Al-Hasibul Jalil Al-Karimul Raqibul Mujibul Wasi'ul Hakimul Wadudul Majidul Ba'ithul Shahid Al-Haqqul Wakil Al-Qawiyul Matin Al-Waliyul Hamid Al-Muhsil Mubdi'ul Mu'id Al-Muhyil Mumitul Hayyul Qayyum Al-Wajid Al-Majid Al-Wahid As-Samad Al-Qadir Al-Muqtadir Al-Muqaddim Al-Muakhir Al-Awwal Al-Akhir Al-Zahir Al-Batin Al-Wali Al-Mutta'al Al-Bar Al-Tawwab Al-Muntakim Al-Ghafur Rauf Malik Al-Mulk Dhul Jalali Wal-Ikram Al-Muqsit Al-Jami' Al-Ghani Al-Mughni Al-Mani Al-Dar Al-Nafi' Al-Nur Al-Hadi Al-Badi' Al-Baqi Al-Waris Al-Rashid Al-Sabur Alladhi laysa kamithlihi shay'un wa huwa as-sami'ul basir. Allahumma salli afdal as-salati ala as'adil makhluqati ka sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim adada ma'lumatika wa midada kalimatika kullama zakaraka zakiruna wa ghafala an zikril ghafilun.
Bagi memohon keberkatan majlis pada hari ini, majlis dengan segala hormatnya menjemput Saudara Muhammad Fahim Syamsuddin untuk memimpin bacaan doa. Bagi yang bukan beragama Islam, dimohon untuk bertafakur mengikut agama masing-masing.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nabil Karim wa ala alihi wa ashabihi al-kiram al-Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, sesungguhnya pada hari yang penuh bermakna ini, kami berhimpun untuk merafakkan setinggi-tinggi kesyukuran ke atas hadratmu, di atas segala nikmat dan kurniaanmu yang tidak ternilai. Jadikanlah kami, Ya Allah, dalam kalangan hamba-hambamu yang sentiasa bersyukur, sama ada di atas nikmat yang kecil, maupun nikmat yang melimpah ruah telah Engkau kurniakan kepada kami. Ya Allah, Ya Karim, Ya Wadud, berkatilah dan limpahkanlah rahmatmu ke atas perjalanan program Inspiration Forum, Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026 pada hari ini. Sesungguhnya Engkaulah Tuhan yang Maha mengetahui bahawa kami berhimpun di sini untuk menimba ilmu pengetahuan daripada keluasan ilmu-Mu, demi memperluaskan kefahaman kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Engkau redai. Oleh itu, Ya Allah, berkatilah dan rahmatilah perhimpunan kami ini. Kurniakanlah kepada kami ilmu yang bermanfaat. Terangkanlah hati-hati kami dengan cahaya dan petunjuk-Mu, agar kami dapat menerima, menghayati dan mengamalkannya dengan sebaiknya. Ya Allah, Ya Dzal Jalali wal Ikram, kurniakanlah kepada kami kesihatan yang baik, kecerdasan minda, keterangan jiwa dan kekuatan rohani. Dengan segala kurniaan-Mu ini, semoga kami mampu menghadapi segala cabaran, terus berdaya saing serta memartabatkan diri, keluarga, agama, masyarakat dan negara. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqana min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'suma. ولا تجعل اللهم فينا ولا معنا ولا ما يتبعنا شقيا ولا مطرودا ولا محروما. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين آمين يا رب العالمين.
Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih di atas pimpinan bacaan doa sebentar tadi. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Majlis mengalu-alukan kehadiran yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Jailani Johari, Pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamri Sekawi, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Penyelidikan dan Inovasi Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Dr. Haji Noor Hisham bin Abdullah, Pengerusi Institut Jantung Negara IJN, merangkap juga pengerusi UCSI Healthcare Group, Hospital UCSI Port Dickson. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Thirunavukarasu Rajoo, Presiden Persatuan Perubatan Malaysia MMA.
Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Nurmala Ibrahim, Dekan Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Saudara Rashidin Muhammad Luqman, Pengarah Program Inspiration Forum, Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Barakatunisa Muhammad Yusof, Timbalan Dekan Akademik Sains Kesihatan Haliwal Pelajar dan Alumni, Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Saudara Muhammad Rizwan Syaul Hamid, Majlis Perwakilan Pelajar Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan, merangkap juga Presiden Muslim Medical Team Universiti Putra Malaysia. Pegawai-pegawai Universiti Putra Malaysia, para pelajar dan hadirin sekalian, selamat datang diucapkan ke program Inspiration Forum,
Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Saya Muhammad Danish
dan saya Umar Sencita Chandran. Kami merupakan pelajar Doktor Perubatan tahun 2 selaku pengacara majlis anda pada sesi kali ini.
Hadirin sekalian, Alhamdulillah, syukur kehadrat ilahi kerana dengan limpah dan kurnianya dapat kita bersama-sama berkumpul di program Inspiration Forum Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Forum ini bertujuan untuk memberi inspirasi serta memperkukuh pemahaman para pelajar mengenai peranan bidang perubatan dalam kepimpinan dan mengorak arus pembangunan negara dengan menampilkan tokoh-tokoh negara sebagai panel jemputan.
Dengan ini, majlis menjemput Saudara Rashidin Muhammad Luqman, Pengarah Program Inspiration Forum Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026 untuk menyampaikan ucapan alu-aluan. Dipersilakan.
Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Jailani Johari, Pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Prof. Dr. Zamri Sakawi, Timbalan Nek Chancellor Penyelidikan dan Inovasi Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Prof. Dr. Noor Ibrahim, Dekan Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Dr. Haji Noor Hisham bin Abdullah, Pengurusi Institusi Jantung Negara, merangkap juga Pengurusi UCSI Healthcare Group. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Thirunavukarasu Rajoo, Presiden Persatuan Perubatan Malaysia MMA. Yang berbahagia Prof. Dr. Noor Ibrahim, Dekan Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan Universiti Putra Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Prof. Dr. Barakatunnisa Muhammad Yusof, Timbalan Dekan Akademik Sains Kesihatan, Hal Ehwal Pelajar dan Alumni Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan. Saudara Muhammad Rizwan Syahul Hamid, Majlis Perwakilan Pelajar Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan dan Presiden Muslim Medical Team, pegawai-pegawai universiti, ahli jawatankuasa majlis, para pelajar dan hadirin sekalian. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam hormat kepada semua hadirin. Terlebih dahulu, setinggi-tinggi penghargaan saya rakamkan kepada Pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti Putra Malaysia, Datuk Seri Jailani Johari, atas kesudian hadir dan merasmikan majlis pada malam ini. Thank you so much, Datuk. Kehadiran Datuk Seri amat besar ertinya kepada kami kerana bukan sahaja menyinarkan forum ini, malah jadi lambang sokongan UPM dan keyakinan terhadap usaha mahasiswa untuk maju ke hadapan. Thanks a lot, Datuk. And sorry to disturb your Netflix time. Penghargaan yang tidak terhingga juga saya tujukan kepada Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri dan juga Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Arsu atas kesudian hadir dan berkongsi pandangan yang amat bernilai bersama kita pada malam ini. Kehadiran dua tokoh besar ini bukan sahaja mengangkat martabat forum ini, malah menjadi sumber inspirasi yang amat bermakna kepada pelajar. Lebih-lebih lagi, ia menyentuh hati kami kerana kedua-dua panelis ini sangat merendah diri. Bila kami buat lawatan untuk tetamu kehormat pun sangat humble, like kami pun tak tahu nak sembang apa. Tapi like they welcome us and also like we talk like for 1 hour, more than 1 hour actually. Thanks a lot, Dato' and Tan Sri. Ucapan terima kasih yang tulus juga saya sampaikan kepada TNCPI, Prof, Dekan serta TDSK atas sokongan, dorongan dan kepercayaan yang diberikan. Tidak dilupakan juga penghargaan istimewa kepada penasihat Kelab Muslim Medical Team, iaitu Dr. Siti Salihah dan juga Dr. Afiq, serta pegawai-pegawai lain, pegawai fakulti, pegawai universiti, Puan Hafliza, Kak Maisara, yang banyak membantu melancarkan perjalanan program ini. Ucapan penghargaan yang setulus juga saya tujukan kepada seluruh ahli jawatankuasa saya juga, dan juga kepada Muhammad Rizwan, Timbalan Pengarah, dan juga man behind the stage, which is Ahmad Arman Azizi. Thanks a lot. And also Irfan, Elhan Luqman, Setiausaha, dan juga ahli Kelab Muslim Medical Team yang telah bertungkus lumus dari awal perancangan hingga ke malam ini. Segala masa, tenaga, komitmen yang dicurahkan amat saya hargai. Sesungguhnya kejayaan forum ini lahir daripada semangat pasukan yang bekerja dengan penuh keikhlasan dan kesungguhan. Baiklah, program ini dianjurkan kerana saya percaya bahawa mahasiswa perubatan bukan saja perlu cemerlang dalam ilmu dan kemahiran klinikal, tetapi juga perlu dibentuk dengan nilai kepimpinan, integriti dan tanggungjawab terhadap masyarakat serta negara. Akhir sekali, saya juga ingin merakamkan penghargaan yang istimewa kepada diri saya sendiri dan juga keluarga saya atas doa, sokongan dan juga kekuatan sentiasa diberikan sepanjang perjalanan ini. Saya amat syukur, Alhamdulillah, kerana diberi kesempatan untuk mengalas amanah ini hingga ke akhir ini. Sesungguhnya saya juga ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada semua orang yang berada di Dewan ini serta mengikut siaran langsung pada malam ini. Thanks a lot, guys. Dan juga insya-Allah kita tawakal kepada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Semoga forum ini menjadi titik mula kepada lahirnya generasi doktor yang bukan sahaja hebat ilmu, tetapi kukuh kepimpinan dan tinggi nilai khidmatnya kepada agama, masyarakat dan negara. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan sekian terima kasih.
Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada Saudara Rashidin atas ucapan alu-aluan sebentar tadi. Hadirin sekalian, seterusnya majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamberi Sekawi, Timbalan Naib Chancellor Penyelidikan dan Inovasi Universiti Putra Malaysia untuk menyampaikan ucapan beliau. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan.
Terima kasih saudari pengurusi majlis. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sejahtera dan salam Malaysia Madani. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Jailani Johari, pengurusi Lembaga Pengarah UPM. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Dr. Haji Noor Hisham bin Abdullah, pengurusi Institut Jantung Negara merangkap pengurusi UCSI Healthcare Group. Dan yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Thirunavukarasu Rajoo, Presiden Persatuan Perubatan Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Noor Ibrahim, Dekan Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan UPM, Saudara Rashidin Muhammad Luqman, Pengarah Program, yang berbahagia Dr. Barakatun Nisa Muhammad Yusof, Timbalan Dekan, Saudara Muhammad Ridwan Sahul Hamid, Wakil Perwakilan Pelajar Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan, dan juga Presiden Muslim Medical Team UPM, pegawai-pegawai Universiti Putra Malaysia, para pelajar yang saya kasih sekalian dan hadirin sekalian. Alhamdulillah, saya bersyukur kerana kita dapat bersama-sama pada malam ini dalam Inspiration Forum Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Adalah satu platform yang amat signifikan dalam membina generasi pemimpin masa depan. Saya merakamkan setinggi-tinggi penghargaan kepada semua pihak yang telah menjayakan program ini, khususnya para panel jemputan yang sudi berkongsi pengalaman dan pandangan. Kehadiran tokoh-tokoh berkaliber ini memberi nilai yang amat besar pada para pelajar dan warga universiti. Dan saya difahamkan bukan senang nak dapatkan mereka datang. Jadi saya ucapkan syabas kepada tim yang boleh convince mereka untuk datang. Hadirin yang dihormati, dunia hari ini semakin kompleks. Cabaran kesihatan global, perubahan sosial dan tekanan terhadap sistem kesihatan memerlukan pendekatan yang lebih strategik dan menyeluruh. Dalam realiti ini, seorang doktor tidak lagi boleh dilihat hanya sebagai penyedia rawatan. Sebaliknya, doktor adalah pemimpin dalam komuniti, ejen perubahan dan penyumbang kepada pembangunan negara. Justru bidang perubatan menuntut lebih daripada kecemerlangan akademik. Ia menuntut kepimpinan, integriti, empati dan keberanian untuk membuat keputusan yang memberi kesan kepada masyarakat. Inilah yang perlu kita bentuk, doktor yang bukan sahaja kompeten tetapi juga berjiwa besar dan berdaya memimpin. Sehubungan itu, forum ini seperti ini adalah amat penting. Ia bukan sekadar ruang perkongsian ilmu tetapi platform untuk membentuk pemikiran, membina keyakinan dan mencetuskan aspirasi di kalangan pelajar. Di Universiti Putra Malaysia, kita komited untuk melahirkan graduan yang bukan saja cemerlang tetapi mampu memberi impak kepada masyarakat dan negara. Kita percaya bahawa pendidikan tinggi harus melahirkan pemimpin, bukan sekadar profesional. Saya juga ingin merekamkan tahniah sekali lagi kepada pihak penganjur, khususnya Muslim Medical Team UPM atas kejayaan menganjurkan program ini, dan usaha ini membuktikan bahawa mahasiswa hari ini mampu menerajui inisiatif berimpak tinggi dan menjadi rakan strategik dalam pembangunan universiti. Saya dipahamkan ini adalah tahun 2 dan tahniah tahun 2 dah boleh menganjurkan program seumpama ini. Dan gunakanlah peluang ini sebaiknya untuk belajar, bertanya, berfikir dan membina jaringan, kerana pada akhirnya kepimpinan bukan tentang jawatan tetapi tentang nilai, tanggungjawab dan keberanian untuk membawa perubahan. Semoga forum ini menjadi titik permulaan kepada pembentukan generasi doktor yang bukan saja cemerlang dalam bidang perubatan tetapi juga mampu memimpin masa depan negara. Sekian, terima kasih.
Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada Yang Berbahagia Profesor atas ucapan aluan sebentar tadi.
Hadirin yang dihormati sekalian, kini majlis dengan penuh takzim mempersilakan Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Jailani Johari, Pengerusi Lembaga Pengarah Universiti Putra Malaysia untuk menyampaikan ucapan dan seterusnya rasmikan program Inspiration Forum Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Majlis dengan segala hormatnya mempersilakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam Malaysia Madani. Terima kasih kepada saudara dan saudari pengacara majlis. Dan terima kasih juga kepada saudara Muhammad Fahim yang mengintai doa kita tadi. Terima kasih. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Zamri Sekawi, TNC Pendidikan dan Inovasi UPM. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Dr. Haji Noor Hisham bin Abdullah, Pengurusi IJN, merangkap juga Pengurusi UCSI. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Thirunavukarasu, Rajoo, Presiden Persatuan Perubatan Malaysia. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Noor Ibrahim, Dekan Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan UPM. Saudara Rashidin Muhammad Luqman, Pengarah Program. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Barakatun Nisa Muhammad Yusof, Timbalan Dekan Akademik Sains Kesihatan Hal Ehwal Pelajar dan Alumni. Saudara Muhammad Rizwan Syahul Hamid, Majlis Perwakilan Pelajar Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan serta Presiden Muslim Medical Team UPM, pegawai-pegawai UPM, para pelajar dan para hadirin sekalian. Dia biasa, every time kalau speech dia punya salutation yang paling banyak memang Malaysia. Tapi apa pun tahniah. Alhamdulillah, setinggi-tinggi kesyukuran kita panjatkan kehadiran Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana dengan limpah dan kurnianya kita dapat bersama-sama dalam Inspirational Forum Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026 pada hari ini. Sebenarnya apabila saudara Rashidin dan tim dia datang jumpa saya, dia kata nak jemput saya untuk hadir pada malam ni, saya kata okey, saya pun fikir 2-3 kali juga, because selalunya Sunday night ni macam-macam ada, dan selalu pun saya kadang-kadang saya spend most of the time as what he said lah. Saya menonton Netflix kan, especially Tamil movie. I enjoy Tamil movie. So tadi pun saya tengok halfway tadi. Balik ni saya continue je lah. Tak apa. Apa-apa pun tahniah lah kepada tim yang dapat menjayakan program pada malam ni. Forum ini bukan sekadar satu wacana ilmu, tetapi satu medan untuk membentuk pemikiran, nilai dan arah tuju generasi doktor masa hadapan yang bukan sahaja mahir dalam bidang perubatan tetapi juga memiliki jiwa kepimpinan dan tanggungjawab terhadap negara. Saya mulakan dengan memetik kata-kata Hippocrates yang dikenali sebagai bapa perubatan, iaitu wherever the art of medicine is love, there is also a love of humanity. Hadirin yang saya hormati sekalian, forum pada hari ini amat signifikan dalam konteks semasa dunia. Profesion perubatan kini tidak lagi terhad kepada kecemerlangan akademik ataupun kemahiran klinikal semata-mata. Sebaliknya, ia menuntut peranan penting dalam kepimpinan yang mantap, pemikiran yang strategik yang holistik serta komitmen yang tinggi terhadap kesejahteraan masyarakat dan pembangunan negara. Maka persoalan penting yang harus kita tanyakan ialah adakah kita sekadar ingin menjadi doktor yang cekap ataupun doktor yang memberi impak kepada masyarakat. Seorang doktor masa kini perlu berupaya memperkukuh sistem kesihatan, menyumbang kepada pembentukan dasar awam serta memastikan akses kepada perkhidmatan kesihatan yang berkualiti dapat dinikmati oleh seluruh lapisan masyarakat. Kepimpinan dalam bidang perubatan bukan tentang kuasa ataupun jawatan, tetapi lebih kepada tentang khidmat. Ia bermula dengan sikap iaitu integriti, empathy, keberanian membuat keputusan dan keupayaan memimpin dalam keadaan sukar. Jadi kita sebenarnya amat bertuah pada hari ini kita ada dua tokoh yang memang hebat, iaitu kehadiran yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Seri Dr. Haji Noor Hisham bin Abdullah. Saya ucapkan terima kasihlah dapat hadir pada malam ni. Kalau saya sebenarnya follow Tan Sri punya Facebook, dia memang a very busy person. Hari ini pun tadi saya tengok beliau pun telah dilantik salah seorang sebagai expert dalam surgery. Jadi kita ucap tahniah sekali lagi kepada Tan Sri. Kepimpinan beliau dalam bidang kesihatan awam memang kita tidak nafikanlah. Kita pun tahu bagaimana beliau telah memainkan peranan begitu signifikan kepada sistem kesihatan negara, terutamanya kepada kita generasi-generasi muda, ya, dan terutamanya kepada para pelajar bidang perubatan. Dedikasi dan komitmen beliau membuktikan bahawa seorang doktor bukan sahaja berkhidmat di hospital tetapi turut memainkan peranan penting di peringkat nasional dan global. Yang kedua juga, kita bertuah kerana dapat untuk hadir pada hari ini yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Thirunavukarasu, Rajoo. Okey. Kita ucapkan tahniah juga dan terima kasih kepada Datuk. Sumbangan beliau dalam memperjuangkan kepentingan profesion perubatan serta memperkukuh peranan komuniti perubatan dalam pembangunan sistem kesihatan negara amatlah dihargai. Kepimpinan beliau mencerminkan keperluan kepada suara profesional yang berintegriti dalam memastikan kelestarian sistem kesihatan negara. Hadirin yang saya hormati sekalian, saya yakin bahawa perkongsian pengalaman dan pandangan daripada para panel, terutama yang hadir pada hari ini, akan membuka minda terutamanya kepada anak-anak kita lah hari ini yang terdiri pada tahun 2, supaya mereka dapat memberikan perspektif yang lebih luas kepada para peserta, khususnya mengenai cabaran sebenar dalam dunia perubatan, cabaran seperti kekangan sumber, perubahan teknologi serta keperluan kepada kepimpinan memerlukan kita untuk sentiasa bersedia dan berdaya saing. Dalam hal ini, UPM melalui Fakulti Perubatan dan Sains Kesihatan sentiasa komited dalam melahirkan graduan yang bukan sahaja cemerlang dari segi ilmu pengetahuan dan kemahiran klinikal, tetapi juga memiliki kualiti kepimpinan, integriti yang tinggi serta rasa tanggungjawab sosial yang menebal. Kita sedang memasuki era baru dengan teknologi seperti kecerdasan buatan ataupun AI, telemedicine dan revolusi data kesihatan. Dan we can hear more from Tan Sri and both the panelists today. Namun satu perkara tidak akan berubah, iaitu nilai kemanusiaan. Dalam dunia yang semakin digital, sentuhan manusia, keikhlasan dan empati akan menjadi lebih menilai daripada sebelumnya. Hadirin yang saya hormati sekalian, saya amat yakin bahawa melalui forum ini, para peserta akan memperoleh inspirasi baru serta pemahaman yang lebih mendalam tentang bagaimana kepimpinan dalam bidang perubatan mampu membawa perubahan positif kepada sistem kesihatan negara. Platform seperti ini amat penting dalam membentuk pemikiran serta aspirasi generasi muda. Sebelum saya mengakhiri ucapan, saya ingin menggalakkan para pelajar untuk memanfaatkan sepenuhnya peluang yang ada pada hari ini. Kita hanya ada less than 2 hours. Please, libatkan diri secara aktif dalam perbincangan, ajukan soalan dan timba sebanyak mungkin ilmu daripada para panel yang berpengalaman. Semoga segala ilmu dan inspirasi yang diperoleh akan menjadi pemakin kepada usaha kita untuk menjadi doktor yang bukan sahaja cemerlang dalam bidang masing-masing tetapi juga mampu mengorak perubahan dan menyumbang kepada kesejahteraan masyarakat serta pembangunan negara. Seperti yang diperkatakan oleh bapa perubatan moden William Osler, the good physician treats the disease, but the great physician treats the patient. Akhir kata, saya ingin mengucapkan tahniah kepada pengarah forum, Saudara Rashidin Muhammad Luqman dan Kelab Muslim Medical Team, UPM, serta kepada semua yang terlibat sama ada secara langsung atau tidak langsung atas komitmen dan usaha luar biasa dalam menjayakan penganjuran forum ini. Semoga segala usaha dan komitmen yang dicurahkan mendapat keberkatan dan ganjaran yang sebaiknya. Dengan lafaz Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, saya dengan sukacitanya merasmikan Inspiration Forum for Medicine Leadership and Nation Building 2026 pada hari ini. Sekian, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan terima kasih.
Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada yang berbahagia Datuk Seri atas perasmian sebentar tadi.
Hadirin sekalian, kini tibalah masa yang dinanti-nantikan, iaitu sesi forum. Majlis dengan ini menjemput moderator forum pada hari ini iaitu Saudari Syazah Marina Muhammad Gaus, pelajar jurusan Doktor Perubatan untuk mengemudi sesi forum. Beliau merupakan seorang figura yang dikenali handal dalam pengendalian sesi forum. Tanpa melengahkan masa, dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam Malaysia Madani. Sebelum saya memulakan majlis pada hari ini, izinkan saya untuk bertutur dalam bahasa Inggeris. Ladies and gentlemen, when you see the words medicine, leadership, and nation building, take a second to think about it. Right? You're thinking, how could these words correlate to one another? Well, stay tuned to our conversation today because I'm sure it will truly change your perspectives and inspire you to want to create an impact for the betterment for our national healthcare. On to our panelists for today, who are no longer a mystery as they are right behind me. Yeah, but then, anyways, I'd be honored to call upon our ex-Director General of 10 years, our hero during the pandemic COVID-19, and the recipient of the Honourable Fellowship ad hominem award from the Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh. Ladies and gentlemen, Tan Sri Noor Hisham Abdullah. Next to him, we have the President of the Malaysian Medical Association, the CEO of one of the largest private clinic chains in Malaysia, CareClinics. With all honor, I now invite Dato Dr. Thirunavukarasu Rajoo. So, without further ado, Tan Sri, Dato, let's begin. Okay, then Tan Sri, you can take your picture first. There's no worries. Okay, so there are many young doctors in this hall today. So as an inspiration to young doctors, Tan Sri or Dato, you can answer this question. What ignited your passion for medicine?
Well, I think... Right, thank you very much for inviting me to engage with the medical students this evening. But more important, I think, this is a journey. And many of you wanted to be a doctor. I think if you ask any of the students after Form 5, why do you want to be a doctor? Sebab, why? So the answer will be sebab negara, bangsa dan agama. So I'm sure most of you have that intention for a start, right? But it's a long journey, so you need to embrace the journey and make sure you know what you want. So to be a doctor is not because your parents want you to be a doctor. The most important is you want to be a doctor. You must have a sense of purpose and a sense of direction that you want to be a doctor. So that is where I think if you have the passion, then you'll be a good doctor. Otherwise, you'll be a mediocre doctor. So in whatever you do, whether in sports, whether in medicine, whether in any field, you want to be the best. This is the thing that, we need to groom our young generation to be the best in whatever you do. You want to play badminton, make sure that you are one of the best in the world, ranking, for example. So you must aim high, and that's where you need to be. Like me, for example, once I wanted to be a doctor, and obviously to help people, a noble profession. But then, how do you make a decision between medicine, surgery, and etc.? Then you ask yourself, your passion, what are you good in? Are you good in reading, or are you good in doing? I like both, actually. So my hands action speaks louder than words. So my passion is actually in surgery. And when I wanted to be a surgeon, I do not want to be a mediocre surgeon. I wanted to be a global surgeon, a world-renowned surgeon in my field of expertise. And that is my target. And obviously, along the way, certainly there's a lot of things during the journey, a lot of things changing your course of journey, and then perhaps I was asked to be administrator. But the first offer for me to be an administrator, I rejected it. I said, I'm not an administrator, I'm a surgeon, and a world-renowned surgeon. That is my ambition. But when things doesn't happen, then certainly I changed the perspective and then took up administration dengan syarat I'm still allowed to practice surgery. So that's what I have been doing as an administrator, 6 years as the deputy DG and 10 years as the DG. But I was still operating during when I was still deputy DG and the DG. So I think that's how the most important is your passion.
Thank you, that's Okay, thank you, Tan Sri. Yes, that was a very important highlight. Passion, right, Tan Sri? That's what drove you to where you are right now. Dato, can you also share with us what ignited your passion and also add on a memory that made you smile in your lengthy career? One moment.
Okay, thanks, Shazza. So I think like what Tan Sri said, passion is very important. See, my story is very simple. I came from a small town called Padang Serai in Padang Serai, Kedah. After 7 o'clock, the whole town is dark. It's a Simpang Tiga, it's all dark. Okay, so my father was a Tamil school teacher with a big family. So definitely we were not the middle class, we were low middle class. So, but then in that community, the access to healthcare was a clinic kesihatan which was next to my house, and then there were 2 GPs. So what I noticed there, that the respect that these doctors, the doctor in the clinic kesihatan, medical officer, and the 2 GPs, that the community have so much of high respect for them, not because of where they live, but because what they were doing. And the community over there, they really appreciated them. Because why? The next hospital is Kulim Hospital, and Kulim Hospital, those days, it is known as one-way street. I'm talking about the late 70s and 80s, because the perception at that time that they do not have proper doctors over there, or specialists over there. That was the perception. So the closest was Bukit Mertajam, because the referral hospital was Penang Hospital, where they have all the specialists. So because when you go to these doctors, they'll be able to guide us where to go. So I noticed that respect for the doctors they had over there, and they were also seen as a community leaders over there. Second thing is that for you to come out from poverty, one of the ways is education. Is known as education, right? So the combination of financial security and also the respect to the doctors as a useful person in the community actually is what actually inspired me that one day I should be doing that. So that what actually inspired me. So for me is that how can I be useful? Whether I'm a GP, I'm still practicing, so I'm still a GP, and then running 200 clinics, the largest network in Malaysia where our clinics all are connected, and I'm a strong believer in AI and digitalization, and also being MMA president. So for me is that how can I be useful? That's why when Rashidin called me, I said, okay, because I have this problem that I do not like to reject things. So until now when people ask me for help, I will never reject. So even my PA, she has a headache because I said, that's not your job to reject any appointment. So I said, for me, in leadership, position and power is temporary. So while you are holding that position of power, you give opportunity to as many people as possible, because I was denied many opportunities in the past. I said, I should not make the same mistake. So that's what inspired me. And till now, I'm very excited, I'm very positive, I'm very, very inspired. So I always believe that as students, you all must have the growth mindset. Okay, what made me to smile? It's very interesting. When I started my clinic, that was in Cheras first, now I'm practicing in Putrajaya. So this Pachi came to see me. He said, somebody said, you're a good doctor, but nothing much. He was, I think he was 58 years old from Hulu Langat. He came all the way to Hulu Langat at the back of Taman Konot. He came because of chronic cough. Chronic cough, he was losing weight, that's all. So for me, it struck to me, looks like a TB. So I did simple, a thorough history, physical examination, and investigation, chest x-ray. I said, Pachi, you have
I suspect you got tuberculosis. Why don't I refer to the nearest clinic kesihatan? So not just refer, because I knew in Malaysia, till now, there is no continuity of care because everybody is working in silo. This I'm talking about at least 18, 19 years ago. So I told myself, hey, if I just give a letter to him, he may be lost halfway. It's still happening. So what we did, I told my nurse, hey, please call to the clinic kesihatan and make sure you give an appointment to him, close the loop. So after that, he never came back. So one day after almost 6 months, he came back. And he came back, he brought a bag of, basket of rambutan. So he said, in KL, don't think it doesn't happen. So he came back and told me, Doktor, terima kasih doktor. Sebab doktor sekarang mereka cakap TB ada complete semua treatment, sekarang saya sangat bagus, saya boleh balik kerja. So that actually excited me. And till now, I still have those kind of patients. Sometimes even in Putra, I get batik shirt. They invite me to go in the children's wedding. So many things. And I have this bad habit. I like to give my number to all my patients. But they don't actually disturb you. Actually, what they want is that a reassurance, and also in the time of need. If they have this disease, which doctor to see, which hospital to see. So this actually, when the person smiles, and the little thank you, that is what actually really, really motivates me.
Yes, truly. So you turned pain into purpose, Dato. And with that, now you're putting smiles onto not only your patients' faces. So many people were smiling here just now. Even I couldn't control my smile. Okay, Dato. Okay, Tan Sri, you are someone who is, very... I'm so sorry you have to share the mics. Okay, Tan Sri, you are someone who is very passionate about medical innovation. Just now in the holding room itself, you were talking about how robotics is being applied to medicine. I was like, wow, doctor is really interested in innovation. So you have pioneered and promoted electrical acupuncture, anesthesia, and local anesthesia for thyroid surgery, which is, I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, that is truly amazing. Can you tell us more about it? And how do you see medical innovation growth in Malaysia?
So before I zoom into medical creative ideas and medical innovation, I think each and every one of you here must embrace the 5 most important basic skills in you to be a good doctor. Number 1 is you have to, have a sense of purpose, and you listen to your patient. You must have the ability to listen to facts, science, and data. Sometimes you talk to patient, sometimes you do not listen. You just want to listen to answer. But listen to understand the subject matter is important. Whatever you do, whether you have problems, listen to the data, science, and facts about the problem so that you understand it. Einstein have said, if you were to give me 60 minutes to solve a problem, I will spend 55 minutes just to understand the problem first, and 5 minutes to solve it. So when you listen to data, listen with your ears, for example. Listen as if the king is talking to you. Listen with full attention. Listen with your eyes, the non-verbal communication. And most important, listen with the heart. Because patients can feel you. I still remember when I was a houseman, this lady actually told the husband, don't let this doctor go. Because this doctor is different from other doctors because he has a heart. That's the lingo that he used. But more important, that is the first skill. And you need to groom the skill of listening. Don't listen to answer, just listen to understand the subject matter. And listen to understand the facts. Any issues, any crisis, listen to the data, science, and facts first at that point of time. Second is risk communication. Sometimes doctor, being a doctor, you need, like Dato Arasu, basically good communication, with the patient. Communication is the skill. You engage with the patient, you explain issues and challenges with the patient so that you can manage the expectation of your patient. If you are a leader, you need to manage the expectation of the public. And if you can manage the expectation of public, you win the trust. And when there is a trust, you grow the trust together. Can you imagine if the patient do not trust the doctor? Oh, that's the beginning of the end, right? So that is the second, risk communication. Third, creative ideas and innovation. You know, when you are learning, you learn the basics so that you know what people are doing. When you are already practicing what norm, you know, what people are practicing, the norm, then you start creative ideas and innovation. Do things in terms of different, you know, how can you do things better, faster, safer, and you know, and this is and safer, right? Better, faster, cheaper, and safer. More important, whatever you do, high impact, good outcome at a reasonable cost. Then it will be marketable. So this is how you innovate something. So that's back to the question in terms of, you know, when everybody is doing thyroid surgery. So I wanted to explore new ways of doing things. So I heard, you know, thyroid surgery has been done in the past, reading the literature. You know, in Universiti Malaysia, they did about 25 cases of thyroid surgery under local anesthesia way back in 1969 by Ian Cunningham, you know, a doctor from Australia. But why are people not doing it now? And I wanted to learn, but nobody is doing it. So when I was in Royal North Shore Hospital, Sydney, and apparently my professor said, tomorrow we have a challenging case, you know, a patient, you know, with ejection fraction of 23%. That means the heart is not able to tolerate general anesthesia, and I'm going to do the thyroid surgery and local anesthesia. That was my time. You know, I thought that was my opportunity to learn exactly what he did. So when I came back, this is where I think there was one patient, you know, supposed to have surgery. It's a renal hyperparathyroidism, but because of the derangements of the serum calcium level and etc., the anesthetist cancelled the operation. Then he went for a dialysis again. Then he came back after the dialysis for me to do the operation, anesthetist cancelled again. So he went for the second dialysis within 24 hours, and after the second dialysis, he succumbed. So I told myself, if only I have done surgery under local anesthesia, I could have saved the patient's life. So that's where my journey started, doing surgery under local anesthesia. And I trained my trainees, you know, most of my trainees were able to do thyroid surgery under local anesthesia. Once they are good, you have to move on. That's what my professor used to say. You know, you must be 2 or 3 steps ahead of others. Once my trainee can do thyroid surgery under local anesthesia, I move on to do thyroid surgery under day care. You know, comparing 2 groups. You know, one under general anesthesia, one under local anesthesia. Local anesthesia, 100% discharged the same day. General anesthesia, 25% admitted because of nausea, vomiting. And this was published in One Day Surgery in UK. This is the clinical trials that we did. Then I move on to the next stage, thyroid surgery under acupuncture. I heard surgery can be done under acupuncture in China. I don't believe it, you know. Seeing is believing. So when my minister, Datuk Sri Liao Chong Lai, Tan Sri Liao Chong Lai, I have arrangements to go to China, I said I want to follow. Basically, I want to learn and see how surgery can be done under acupuncture because I want to criticize them. You know, when I went to Beijing, nobody was doing it. You know, they only use acupuncture for pain management. Then they say that in Shuguan Hospital in Shanghai, they are doing it, and because they have a grant from the government. So I make arrange for one anesthetist and one surgeon and myself. We went to the hospital, and you know, we thought that we are there to criticize them. But seeing this operation being done at acupuncture, thyroid surgery, and basically, you know, I was there to follow the patient from the ward to the operating theatre, and it can be done. So I was shocked, you know, and I do not know how it works, but certainly the patient went through the operation. And I was bored doing the operation. Operation is the same, anesthesia is the one that's different. So I went to the other theatre, and the other theatre was doing bypass operation under acupuncture. The patient is still there. You know, that was amazing. And the third case, I was there to look into the patient neurosurgery brain surgery, and I can see the brain and ask the patient, talk to the patient, any pain, any pain? No facial expression of pain. So I know it works, but I don't know how. So then I explore how it works using physiology, anatomy. Basically, in thyroid surgeon, local anesthesia, you use chemical block. But in acupuncture, they use TENS, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation. Stimulate the nerve for half an hour, then the nerve goes to fatigue, and then the action, no more action potential, and that's where there's no more pain. That's how you do the surgery. So I think it's amazing. So what I'm trying to say is that do not stop at what you learn, but continue to explore new things, creative ideas and innovation. And today, we are living in a very exciting time whereby you have 4 areas of new innovation coming into medicine, for example, in healthcare. Number 1, digital health. Collecting the data. When you have big data, it has endless possibility. Second, we all know AI is coming in, artificial intelligence. How are you going to use AI in medicine if is left to our creative ideas and innovation? Yes, last 2 days we have a hackathon AI in healthcare organized by Harvard Group, and UCSI Hospital been identified as one of the hub, and we pitch new ideas and innovation using AI in healthcare. And this is a very exciting phase 1. And then we move on to the phase 2, whereby 50 AI projects and innovation will be submitted from 36 countries, 42 hubs. And then we will identify the 50 innovation and narrow down to 20. And from the 20, we'll go to another list. There's a boot camp, venturing building a boot camp. And then eventually, finalists will be a 10 best AI application in healthcare, and eventually there will be a winner. And the winner will have a global contract in terms of application of the AI. Perhaps that person will be, that team will be a millionaire if you get a global contract. And the 4th, apart from creative ideas innovation, is perseverance. As a doctor, as a student, you need to persevere, istiqamah all the time, basically to achieve your goal as a doctor. Last but not least, we do our best, we let Almighty do the rest. That means you need to work hard, and then you tawakkal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think that is important. These are the 5 areas that you need to really embrace, then you can be a good doctor.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. So from that, I can see that your curiosity and you wanting to learn drove you towards, pioneering innovation in Malaysia. That is something that we should all take note of. So next question is to Dato. As a medical doctor and a leader, you've probably had a lot of tough decisions to make throughout your career. Can you tell us about one tough decision that you had to make?
But one toughest decision that I would say in the recent time was on the May 6, 2025. And we had the first ever private doctors going to the streets. Okay, that was last year. So it was very interesting. This was actually how it happened was that myself and then the president, Dato, Dr. Khaira, he's a HOD, medical HOD from Sarawak Hospital. We were both in Rio, Montevideo, attending a World Medical Association conference. So we were on the way flight back. And the flight is like almost 23 hours, there's a laydown. So when we landed, and that time the issue was that Act 723, the government wanted to implement Act 723 on GP clinics using a law for retail for professional services. So of course we attempted many attempts, communication, stakeholders engagement, written to them, all the opinions is given. So when we landed, so the government announced it, because we were still negotiating. So when the government announced it, so in MMA you have the private practice section that caters for the private sector and SCOMOS for the public sector. So what happened, and anything decision, it has to go through the exco and the president. So in leadership, we should never be emotional in making decisions. We must be very, very objective. And most of the time, emotional decisions can be wrong. Okay, when we landed, they have already decided they wanted to march from KKM to PMO's office. So this happened while we were in the flight. So when we landed, and they put a notice out. So the media code blue picked it up. When we landed, so the first thing at that time president was, he received a call from the IPD Putrajaya. Oh, we heard that MMA is going to do a march. We would like to see you. So we just landed. So we were both caught off guard. But now, as leaders, you cannot backtrack also because he's in the media, right? So both of us, we have to manage the crisis at that time. It was for us, it was a crisis. So we discussed. And the president at that time, Dato cannot do it because he has to comply to the general order. He's a civil servant. He's a head of department. He said, Arasu, you're the private sector, you have to take the lead. So I was no choice. And me, I'm a corporate CEO, big company, 200 clinics, and then I could look into the corporate risk, business risk, and reputation risk as well. And I have a clinic in Putrajaya, and I see a lot of patients from PMO's office. So I have a good name over there. So there are so many things for me to consider, but one thing we know, we cannot backtrack. We cannot backtrack because that is why, no matter how angry you are, hold your words. Do not post in social media if you don't mean it. Never allow emotion to control your decision. You must be very, very objective. You must be very clear what you want to do. Then you make a decision. Take your time. Don't rush. You are not attending a MI patient in the emergency department where you have to do spontaneously something. That is different. We are trained to do that. And most of the time in crisis, we are not trained to do that. Okay, so what happened? So I called the partners. My partners in the business, they gave me a green light. Hey, you better go, you better do it because you have been championing this for so many years. Then I would tell my wife, because she's also a doctor there. Then she was telling, hey, we are practicing here. What is this? Then finally got the clearance. It is very also important to get clearance from your house as well. Okay, that's how you manage certain things, right? Okay, so then we decided to move forward. Then I called the private practice chairman then. I said, do you know how far is KKM to Putrajaya PMO's office or not? I said, I work in Putrajaya, I know. You want to have it on a Tuesday morning. And do you know Tuesday morning and 8 o'clock in the morning, that's where all the civil servants, 7 o'clock, they go to office. And what are they going to think about us? We are going to disrupt the traffic. What kind of image are we going to give? We are a professional body, we are a profession. Our objective is different, but if you're not careful, the entire thing, the media will spin towards something else. Doctors are being disruptive to the traffic. So I have to negotiate with the private practice chairman. I said, hey, come look here. Our objective is what? We want to show the government we are not happy with this. We want to protest. Okay. I said, let's forget about from KKM. Let's do from the Dataran Putra, the roundabout, the big roundabout right near the mosque. I said, let's walk from there. So then the next day, I was to meet with the IPD. When the Balai Polis Putra, they said, Doctor, apa Doctor buat dekat sini? You see, they were also my patients, so I explained to them. But they were so nice. The special branch officers were so nice, the traffic was so nice, and Perbadan Putrajaya was also so nice. So they said, Doctor, kalau buat dekat Dataran Putra tu panas, Doctor, pukul 8 pagi tu. So they advised us, okay, you better do this side. So they gave us a place to do it. Okay, so now we have already advised, we already published that we're going to march, right? And now we berkumpul. So how to manage this? It's a reputation risk. So I have a lot of good media friends because I was a Secretary General for 5 years, so I made a lot of good relationship with them. So they were more excited about the march than us. Then we asked the Bar Council, can you become a watching brief for the whole thing? So one day before they went, so I had a meeting with the media. A few of them came and told me, okay, you do like this, you make sure. So all the placards were actually done by the media for us. So they helped us. You must put like this is the color you put, then it looks nice. Then when we went there, so Berita Harian, Utusan Malaysia, all the top medias were there. So they told me, okay, what you do, you march, actually 100 meters only, without disrupting the traffic. So I have to negotiate with the police. Police said, I said, Tuan, kita sudah sampai sini tuan, kita kena march. He said, never mind, you march inside there. So we got the clearance. Okay, the other thing is that, my biggest worry was that, of course we are anticipating 700 to 1,000 doctors. I was worried. These doctors GPs were all emotionally charged. If they were to say something wrong there, and it's live, we are live, all the media is covering. If they were to say something wrong there, that is the only thing will be published. So, risk management, okay. We control the hailer. I said only one loud hailer. No other loud hailer. The loud hailer is controlled by me. I never give anybody a loud hailer. So I have to brief them, talk to them. So it went on smoothly. So I control the loud hailer. I never give anybody to speak. All the media statement, I said only us. And on top of that, I have to get 3 other associations to come in. So I have to talk to them, manage them. So in a stakeholders engagement, it's very important for us to understand that what are the needs, expectations of each stakeholders. And then we have to come to a consensus. So eventually it was quite successful in a sense that we met the objective to highlight to the government, don't push us doctors to the brim. Okay, we will step forward. Because why? For us, the issue was that it was a law. We were not against transparency. We were against a law that was used for trade to regulate the professional services. We said, because there are already existing law. So what we did, of course, government went ahead with that. But of course, one of the things we highlighted at that time is also the 7th fee schedule, the GP fees. Okay. So what happened after we are on a judicial review with the government on this particular Act 723 is still ongoing. Okay. Then what happened just on the 2nd of April, as Minister promised, so he announced the revision of our GP fee for the first time since 2006. So the moral of the story is that as doctors, you need to make tough decisions. Okay, when you make tough decisions, like what Tan Sri said earlier, the most basic in management is communication. So that is what you are learning in your medical school. Your history taking is the most important in management. And then second is physical examination. Your physical examination management is looking into all the data. As a CEO of the company, as an MMA president, we do a lot of detailed studies. We need to understand if the government wants to do this policy, why are they doing this policy? You cannot simply just go against it for the sake of going against it. When Tan Sri was a DG, we used to have a lot of arguments. But we have a lot of respect for Tan Sri because why? He's very intelligent and it's not easy to convince him. Okay, because he knows all the facts. So what is more important is that we really need to understand the subject matter. We need to understand how the policy, regulation, puncak kuasa, who has the authority. So these are the things we have to learn. Communication again. Communication is the most basic, and we are lucky in the medical school, we are taught about the history. So do not forget, the most important thing, again I'm reminding you, is the communication skill that you need to sharpen, and you have this opportunity from year 1, year 2, year 3 until you finish. So that is why I would say the medical school is one of the best place for you to learn your communication skills and management.
Thank you so much, Dato. It was a rather great spectacle from what you shared from the eyes of somewhat of a private sector, because you said, right, like you also had your own risk being someone, figure in the private sector. So looking at it from a different lens, as a figure in shaping the national healthcare policy for 15 years, 5 years as the Deputy Director General, 10 years as the Director General, right, Tan Sri? So throughout your tenure, was there a reform that you wanted to implement but you were unable to?
Well, certainly there's a lot of things we want to do, but certainly if you look back in 2017, the most famous tweet that I have is we are underfunded, understaffed, underpaid. We are overstretched. Our hospitals are congested. That's a fact, really. So all these years when I was the DG, we have strategy. Perhaps you look into strategy number 1, because we realized that many of our doctors, nurses resign to the private sector. So it's not the pulling factor. Private sector has been around since 1970s, but sometimes it's a pushing factor that they resign. So we need to address the issue. How do we retain our specialists, our doctors, our nurses? So we came up with retention package. You know, retention package, one easy retention package that we look into is that those days, when you have a strong cable, you know someone, you will stay in Klang Valley forever. If you do not know anyone, you get a one-way ticket to Sabah and not sure when are you coming back, right? So that's unfair. So what we did is we changed the policy. If you do your housemanship in Klang Valley, you have to get out of Klang Valley. Now, if you have done 2 years in Sabah and Sarawak, we give you priority that you will join the masters early and we will bring you back after 2 years. That's a very fair policy. Now, if that policy continue, then many of us, we don't mind going to Sabah Sarawak for 2 years, get the experience and come back and get priority because you will be given priority as a masters. As compared to those in the urban area only have not gone out to Sabah and Sarawak before. So these are the policies that we come up that I think it must be fair. Do what is right for the people. This is the key. This is the most important. Do what is right. And a lot of challenges in the Ministry of Health, especially, you know, when we are short of resources, you know, underfunded, understaffed, underpaid, overworked, overstretched, and our facilities congested. With that, how are we going to roll out our service to retain our doctors? Then we came up with the next idea. The idea was lean management in terms of, we worked with Pemandu, and Pemandu looked into our resources without increasing our resources, improve our management. For example, waiting time for surgery, radiotherapy in Johor Bahru, you know, it was 6 months or so. The cancer will have actually come back really within 6 months. But, you know, Pemandu looked into it, became a lean management, cut short, and then we can offer a treatment very early. So we have done a lot of lean management approach in the Ministry of Health. Then we realized that we are short of resources, but we have creative ideas and innovation. So we look into some of the surgery, for example, cataract operation done under local anesthesia. Then I asked myself, if it's done under local anesthesia, why are you using our general OT? Because general OT should be more complex cases and etc. So then we partner. Now talk about partnership. After lean management, partnership. Partner di Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan. You know, they gave us a 4-story building. I need to convince the board and supported by KSN. And we have the 2 main projects until today is still there. Number one is that the 4 stories shop lot in Jalan Ipoh, we converted the ground floor to 2 operating theatres. And then the first floor is a clinic and second floor admission, third floor management. And we realized that in general theatre, normally they do 7 cataract operation. But in one theatre in Jalan Ipoh, Majlis Agama Islam Wilayah Persekutuan building, they can do 15 operation. With meaning 2 theatres, they can do 30 operation a day. The more you do, the better you are. 1 operation. That means you just stick to 1 operation. And that's, we have evidence to show, if you were to do any operation, operation A, B, C, D, I mean the operation time will be longer. But if you do 4 operations, same operation, surgery A, you know, you have become more efficient, more faster. So with that, for the last more than 15 years, today, we have done 30,000 operation cataract in that shop lot, next to a car yard, next to a coffee shop. And the patient all discharged the same day, complication minimum, and outcome is one of the best, you know, complication less than 0.001%. And that becomes a center of excellence, global hub. WHO came and they were shocked that we can do cataract operation next to a car yard, for example. So this is innovation again. Today, some of you still can go to Jalan Ipoh to have a look into this cataract center. And the cost of surgery is only 103 ringgit. 103 ringgit. Outside in private hospital will cost 5,000 and 6,000 ringgit. And as I said, more than 30,000 operations been done. And many organizations like Standard Chartered, Marsing Group, they donated lenses to the poor patient, for example. So I think this is one creative ideas and innovation that benefited the people. So I think these are some of the things that we do in terms of partnership. And then another partnership is a low risk center, pusat bersalin berisiko rendah in Putrajaya. You only pay RM25, to deliver in Putrajaya, in terms of, so it's open to the public, and we converted the hall to become 6 delivery suite, and now I was told there's an OT there as well they can do. So simple cases can decongest, and then you can go to that area, white cases, and then the hospital can attend to more complex cases. So number one, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of you have the creative ideas, lean management, and then partnership, and also partnership public and private. We talk about global surgery, into addressing some of the shortage of our doctors. Before the Medical Act been amended, we, Ministry of Health, can hire 2,000 doctors from Egypt, Myanmar, and etc. to be placed in Sabah and Sarawak. And Sabah and Sarawak, at the district hospital, they have 2 theatres. They have so these people that are employed can work in Sabah and Sarawak. Now with the amended Medical Act, they cannot register and they cannot practice. So we are short of 2,000 specialists in Sabah and Sarawak. We still have the theatre, but not being utilised. There's no specialists, there's no anaesthetist. Now anesthesia, even today in Sabah and Sarawak, being given by MA, non-doctors. Right? So that is the situation of Sabah Sarawak. So now what we have done is global surgery. How can we partner with those in a private sector, for example? And SJMC has came and partnered with Ministry of Health, and they do not mind to provide 1 week pro bono to go to a district hospital and perform the operation. So they went to Sri Aman and they enjoy the time. So we work with them. And then they ask for another hospital. We offer Miri Hospital. Now, there are 400 clinics, hospitals, private hospitals in Malaysia. If only every hospital provide 1 week pro bono, work with Ministry of Health, we have 400 weeks, for example, then we can actually utilize them in a private hospital. So these are creative ideas and innovation. But the problem is that in Ministry of Health, we have limited resources. In terms of salary and all that is controlled, appointments are being controlled by JPA, salary also by the government and MOF. So it's not Ministry of Health, it's beyond Ministry of Health. So how do we work with other organizations, in the ministry, other ministry, for us to improve the healthcare in the country? Pandemic COVID-19 was a blessing in a way that, in terms of, break down the wall between one ministry to another. We work together, the whole of government and whole of society approach. Not only Ministry of Health, we work with Ministry of Finance, PMO, and then police, army, and etc. Everyone worked together for a common cause. For the first time in history, during the pandemic, there was no barrier between the public hospital and private hospital. All the COVID cases sent to Sungai Buloh Hospital. The non-COVID cases we sent to the private hospital. 2,000 staff from the private hospital crossed over to the Ministry of Health to work for 6 months pro bono. You see, and equipments. Private hospital loaned some of the ventilators and all that to the Ministry of Health. First time you can see the partnership between the two. I think the lesson learned from the pandemic COVID-19 is that we need to optimize the resources of the country, public and private, so that we can address the issue of congestion, overwork, overstretch, and etc. And this is where I think we started in the public hospital. To retain our doctors, we have a public wing. I'm sure UPM also have a public wing, for example. A private wing in the public hospital, so that our doctors can earn additional income. And they have a private wing, and UKM also they have a private wing. Now that I'm in a private hospital, we started a public wing. A private hospital have a public wing. Those who have no insurance, for example, but still wants to seek treatment in our hospital. For example, one patient referred from a private hospital in Kluang to me. The doctor quoted her this operation in Kluang 25,000. But when she came to me, after the operation, she only paid 8,000. That is what we call, because private hospital is not subsidized everything they have to pay for, but in terms of the public wing, we bring down the cost of the treatment, and then so can benefit the community as well. So we go on a lot of creative ideas and innovation. This is how we have been doing it. More important is that, you know, we continue to appreciate and recognize our doctors in the public sector. If we do not do that, then, you know, it's not the pulling factor, it is a pushing factor that our doctors, nurses are resigning. And other countries taking advantage. They don't need to train medical doctors, they don't need to train nurses. All they need to do is offer them a little bit in terms of the salary, and then they can pull our doctors and nurses. You know, we are penny wise, pound foolish. That means we train, we spend millions of ringgit training, but eventually other countries benefited from our nurses and our doctors. So that's the challenge that we have.
Yes, so Tansri, you highlighted that many ministries are involved, not just the Ministry of Health. We often, you know, as Raya Malaysia, whenever there's a bad health policy, we often pinpoint the MOH and say, oh, it's because of them. But from what you have said, you know, during the pandemic COVID-19, we can see that when there is collaboration between all these ministries, that's when our national healthcare drives forward, am I right? So what should the government do about this? To strengthen this. This is something that Tan Sri and Dato often highlight, you know, like to strengthen the public-private integration. So what should the government do?
So we look at the problem in the Ministry of Health. We know the system. Last 15 years, we know that about, you know, there will come a time that the health system will collapse. So that's the reason why we want, you know, basically a support from everyone to transform the healthcare. We have done, in terms of healthcare, you know, consultation, I think we have engaged with more than 16 consultation with professional institutions and etc. To look into how we can transform our healthcare in the country. We have been discussing this for the last 45 years, but we need strong political will and commitment to transform our healthcare system. And we realize that, you know, when there's a change of government, or the change of the minister, they do not continue to exercise, you know, whatever been proposed. They will come with new ideas and etc. There will be a continuous change in ideas and implementation. So that's the reason why I think we tabled the white paper in Parliament, so that, you know, we get a bipartisan support from everyone, regardless who is the Minister of Health, regardless who is the government in place. Everyone agrees that we need to transform our healthcare. Basically addressing the finances, basically how do we integrate the public sector and private sector together, you know, so that the rich patient today can go to the private hospital and they also can come to the public hospital when the quality of care is good. For example, a referral center and etc. They are the one that are paying the taxes, and you cannot deny the rich patient to go to the public hospital. The poor patient have no option. You know, they only go to the public hospital. They cannot go to the private hospital because they do not have insurance, and these are the issues. So if everyone, now that documented migrant is all been insured, if every citizen is insured, they can crisscross public sector and private sector, then that is the best. Now, because of congestion in the Ministry of Health, Sedang Hospital, for example, waiting time for heart surgery is about 1.5 years. 800 patients waiting for bypass operation. And the government have no choice now. Ministry of Health is outsourcing the surgery to private hospital at a negotiated pricing. So that is where I think we need to look into the country, not the sectors. Likewise, when we are in the pandemic COVID-19, we do not look at private sector, public sector, but we look into how do we optimize the resources of the country. And this is the key. And more important, if you look into our services, I think we need to do what is right for the people and the country. Right is right even if no one is doing it. Wrong is wrong even if everyone is doing it. And then this is a principle that we need to adapt and adopt, and hopefully we can make a big difference in healthcare.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Now I would like to shift the perspective towards the private sector lens. Yeah. So, Dato, you're someone rather vocal regarding this issue in press statements, especially through your recent press statement through the MMA. You've highlighted several key issues. Allow me to read them out. Stronger public-private integration, financial sustainability, and regulatory challenge in primary care. So, given your dual perspective as the MMA president and a figure in private healthcare, how do you envision the private sector contributing to this synergy, this collaboration?
Okay, I think one thing we must understand, the private sector has been contributing significantly in the has been contributing significantly in the healthcare ecosystem. If you look at the total expenditure in healthcare, almost 48% is actually being funded by the private sector. Okay, whereas the government funding is from the taxpayers. Okay, so what is important now is that what is the role of private sector? So definitely, even though 70% of the patients are actually using the public health system, so we have 30% who are actually using the private sector. And then if you look at the primary care, you have clinic kesihatan 28%, and the remaining clinics are 72% is by the GP clinics. The patient-wise, 60% goes to the GP clinic, go to the clinic kesihatan, and 40% comes to the GP clinics. So that shows, if the private sector is not there, can you imagine, like what Tansi said earlier, underfunding, overworked, and understaffed, and how much of burden they will have in managing this? Will collapse. So definitely the private sector is playing an important role. Okay, I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, COVID-19, right? COVID-19 pandemic, initially the government was doing mega PPVs. And MMA was pushing, please involve the GPs from the day one, because we have been doing vaccination from the independence time till now. So why it's not that? It's again the trust. Again the regulatory burden comes in. Okay. Okay. Okay, so of course during the pandemic, right, it was a crisis. So we were pushing and lobbying. So of course there was a distrust, GPs cannot handle, and then our fridge got Sayola. It's just isolated cases. But eventually, finally, when they onboarded the GPs, the vaccination was one of the highest in the world, because we ramped it up. Why? The patients, they prefer to go to the neighborhood clinic. They know the doctors, the waiting time is very fast, they can plan, rather than going to a mega PPV where the infection rate also can be high. So these are examples of how we have successfully done it. Okay, another one, for example, like foreign worker screening, the documented foreign worker screening. So there is a partnership, private partnership, whereby the GPs has been contributing immensely for the last 20 over years, 30 years, in terms of screening the foreign workers in the country. So these are the initiatives they've been done. So what is needed? Moving forward, number one, you need to recognize, to manage the health system in the country, it is a whole of nation and whole of society approach. Okay, and we also need to understand that the role of Ministry of Finance and also the role of JPAs. Okay, if you look at the public sector, every issue they pinpoint to the KKM. In fact, recently, there was an issue of 102 million uncollected money from the HKL. Okay, so when BFM asked me and the press asked me, they got a shock. Rather than me targeting KKM, I hit KDN. So BFM actually got a shock. I said 75% of this uncollected money is actually from the undocumented migrant. The doctors and staffs are trained for only one thing, to treat the patients. It is not our job to go and see whether the passport is fake or not fake, or whether the passport is expired. That is the job of the immigration. And then once we have done it, treatment collection is from the collecting department, nothing to the doctors. Why are you burdening us? This question, I said, should be directed to the Home Affairs Ministry. Why do they allow 75% of those undocumented coming here? So having said that, they must also understand. Okay, now you can see 75% of them are already contributing to the healthcare system, public system, right? So how many patients will we see in the private sector? So there are so many. For every documented migrant, there's another 2 undocumented migrants in the country. So actually the private sector is the one, especially the GPs, we see sizable number of the patients in our clinics. So now we're talking about aging population. Then we're talking about increasing NCDs and its complication. As we know, for you to manage costs, you need to do preventive and promotive. That is very important. So you have 10,000 GP clinics throughout the country. And you have more than 12,000 MOs. And we were all trained from MOH. Who else better training than MOH? MOH is the best training place. That's why Singapore is hunting us. But we do not appreciate our talent. But Singapore knows how to take them up. The sad part is that our doctors also, they all are hungry for something. When you do not create the environment, right? So luckily, so in this case, we can see the role of the GPs, the 10,000 plus GPs. So how they can actually manage, for example, screening and basic management of NCDs. So the Ministry of Health, they can take more complex cases because they already understaffed and overworked. So there's a framework. Okay, so is there a framework about that? Like what Tan Sri said earlier. In June 2023, health white paper was passed. So under the second pillar, it's about health promotion and also prevention. So under the health promotion and prevention, these screenings are there. So under the first pillar, it's about service delivery. In the service delivery, is about enhancing the private primary care and also making them as part of the system. So the issue is that we have too many blueprints. The most important thing in management is execution. So that is the most important thing. So if you just keep on planning and doing studies and studies, if not going to execute without a timeline, it's not going to work. So what is needed for a robust public and primary care to work, we need to break the silos. So how do we break the silos? There are enough studies. The MPC, Malaysian Productive Corporation, have done studies, published, and where are the gaps and how can we break the silos in terms of regulatory burdens. So if during the crisis, if the public and private can work together, it's already a working model. So all we need to do is that just continue that model and fine tune it and address the issues.
Okay, so now we can see the picture building of how this public-private integration, this collaboration is crucial to drive our national healthcare forward. And it also helps us deal better with national healthcare crises, right? For example, the pandemic COVID-19, we saw that happening then. So that brings me on to my next question, Dato. When we talk about national healthcare crisis, we can never run away from one thing that has been haunting Malaysia, especially doctors, for the past decade. I think you can already guess what it is about. It's about the contract doctor issue, right? So doctors are experiencing brain drain and it's affecting our treatment quality as well. So can you give your take on this issue? Why is this still happening? Is it poor policy making? Why?
Okay, I think you took it from a press statement. So I issued a press statement on this and I told them it is a policy failure. And every policy in the past, in the 1990s, we saw the mushrooming of medical colleges. At that time, Mr. MMA warned, why are we commercializing medical education to that level? You can have control. And then you have suddenly in the early 2000s, the minister then said the quality of housemaids are very poor. They said we need to increase the housemanship for 2 years. Okay, then increase to 2 years. And then later in 2011-12, suddenly they see there is an increase in medical graduates and the waiting time to go into the system was delayed. Sometime 1 year, 1.5 years, it was delayed. Okay, at the same time, they also have 25% of the housemaids who couldn't complete in 3 years, clogging up the system. So when they were mooting about the contract doctors way back in 2013-14, we told Ministry of Health that time. We told them, what is your exit plan? What is your exit plan? Because it was supposed to be a temporary solution. So what was the exit plan? They said, don't worry. So why they said, don't worry, they were confident. The government thought they were going to win the 2018 election. So when the 2018 election they lost, so the whole reset, when the new government came in, their focus was different. So there was no Passover. So it's very important when you're doing a medical, right, in the ward rounds you do Passover. So it looks like the government, they do not even do Passovers when they change government. So these are the basic fundamentals where you start doing new things. So in 2019, we met the finance minister then, Tuan Lim Guan Eng. We told him, YB, next year, this contract issue is going to come up. It's going to be a political issue. You are the Minister of Finance. If you all look into the budget and all these things or not. We told them in the meeting, but nothing happened. 2020, COVID-19. So what happened? Changed government again. Okay, so they retained the contract doctors because they needed the doctors. Then after that, what happened? Changed government again. So there were so many things were changing, and so much so this particular cohort of contract doctors were the victims. So I have tweeted numerous times in 22, 23, 24, the doctors were used, abused and dumped. That's how strong I used to tweet, because that's what I felt, because start talking to these contract doctors. So then now you have housemanship intake. Only 10% are willing to come in. Why? Is it a rocket science? We know it's a failed policy. Policies that happened 10 years ago, now only you will start seeing the results. Policies that you're going to do today, you will start seeing 10 years' time. If you're overweight, it's because what you have been doing for the last 10 years. If you want to lose the weight, reverse the whole thing, you will go back to that. So basically, we need to understand the policy. So now we ask, why the students do not want? See, there were so many negative news that's happening all the time. Whenever I issue statements, they said, why are you being so negative talking about the system? I said, as leaders, my job is to tell the truth. My job as a leader must tell the truth. But that doesn't mean I'm telling you all don't become doctors. So for us as doctors, we must know how to manage crises. System is not in our hand. But the system policy is by the whoever in power. So we should keep putting the pressure. So in 2024, there was a study done by Universiti Malaya. 851 students participated from 21 medical schools. It's published in a journal. Okay, that's what I quoted in my press statement as well. 37%, only 37% interested in the system. So yesterday I was in Sabah. So we had Jelajah Sabah meeting up with the house officers and also medical officers. We met 100 of them. Then another 100 we had the rights and responsibility event. We did a survey. 30% said they're going to leave the system in the next 1 year. So we asked why. So it's the same story. Number one, they wanted to know their career pathway must be very crystallized. These are all top students going to medical school. So the job of the government is that, hey, these are our talent. If Singapore can smell them and take them, and Singapore becomes a regional hub. When I go for events in Singapore, Singapore actually advises all the countries, Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, and using our own talent. So it's very, very heartening to see our own talent is how Singapore can optimize and capitalize this. So what are we doing here? You see, so this is that's one thing. Second thing is that promotion. Okay, promotion. For you to get JUSA B, A, and C, it's like hide and seek. You have to be at the mercy of a head of department. Why can't be very transparent? Of course, JP will tell, oh, penjawatan tu kalau JUSA C, A, B ada sekian saja. That is administrative. How much money you're going to spend? It's a simple calculation, right? Using talent. And for example, the BIW in Sabah, based on MMS calculation, it is only 4.2 million 1 year. 4.2 million compared to the billions of ringgits that we are wasting is nothing, 4.2 million. But the 4.2 million, the 300 extra ringgit or 400 ringgit is not going to make the doctor rich, but at least they will feel appreciated. The word appreciated is the most important thing, because the 400 ringgit is not going to make them rich. And the other thing is that the work burden. Why are we still working 60 to 80 hours? Do you know in the private sector, there's a law, you cannot work more than 45 hours. Your jawatan hakiki is only 45 hours. Anything more than 45 hours, you have to pay overtime. So why the double standard? Why the government is having double standard for their own people, own public service, compared to the private sector? So when all these mismatches have been happening for years, it's not rocket science to know only 10% are interested. So it's not rocket science, it's very sad. So for me, my worry is that we must understand, it is all our duty to ensure the public system is protected, because that system has worked so well. I have traveled to many countries. I would still say we are one of the best healthcare systems for the amount of money we are spending. We are still accessible, we are still affordable, but we cannot be thinking we are the best, and letting it to crumble. Don't forget, your insurance will drop you when you're 70 years old, unless you have lots of money. So I know I work in Putrajaya over here. I know so many of my patients who are top civil servants, After retirement, they still go back to Hospital Putrajaya. So most of us, we start using the public health system. Maybe many of you, you're young, you don't use the system yet. But time will come, your parents, your grandparents, they will use the system. So if we do not protect the system, so not only the public system, we must protect the whole system. And more importantly, in the healthcare system, is the healthcare workforce. They are the most important in the healthcare work system. Whether you're a doctor, you're an ambulance driver, you're an MA, you're a staff nurse. So in healthcare, the expenditure is actually in investment. It should not be taken as an expenditure. If in accounting wise you're going to take it as an expenditure, you'll only see it as an expense. It's an investment to make sure the healthcare system is financially sustainable, and also those people who are treating. Remember the story I told you, the Pachi who smiled to me and appreciated me. For whatever we are talking, we are only talking for that particular 10 to 12 minutes of consultations that a doctor is doing for the whole thing. So whatever the discussion is that patient experience and that patient journey. So that is why I will continue to put the pressure. In fact, we have written a letter to the Prime Minister. We said we wanted to see JPA and also MOF together. Because in my statement in the last 6 months, I have never hit MOH. All my statement was directed to JPA. And in fact, today there was an article by Tan Sri KPPA that kita memerlukan nasionalisme. So Berita Harian came out because I told them, with due respect to Tan Sri, I said we need to address. These are the things. It's not to say the doctors are leaving because they don't love Malaysia. They're leaving because the system and the policy tak balas cinta of the doctors. So I think this is very important for us to understand. If we are losing talent, it is our job to identify and retain talent in a country. And the most important thing in nation building is talent. Talent and talent and talent.
Thank you, Dato. So, you mentioned a very important point, protecting the public sector. So, Tan Sri, what are the steps that government should take so that to ensure that these government positions offered aren't just, just an offer on table, but it's also truly attractive in terms of training opportunities, compensation, and work-life balance? Because as what Dr. Arasu pointed out, the incoming doctors and the current doctors, they don't have the belief and the trust in the system. What's your take on this, Tan Sri?
It's very challenging now when we look into the public healthcare system. And the history is, when we started the contract, because there's a glut of doctors at the point of time, and then we know that they are coming in, and they did not increase the permanent post. Therefore, the new houseman will have to wait, new doctors have to wait for housemanship. Wait for 1 year, even 6 months to 1 year, and longer than that. So because of that, they should at that point of time increase the permanent post, but they did not. But we agreed, okay, it's a temporary measure for the contract. But the thing is discrepancy in terms of contract. If only the contract position, in UK, for example, their contract, in Australia, their contract, if the contract position has no difference with the permanent, then it's okay. And for example, contract but EPF, for example, they get the EPF, and the perks, they still have the pathway to do their postgraduate education, they still can get their loans, they still can get the priority and etc. It's the same. That means permanent and contract is the same. But unfortunately, in the JPA, if your contract, you cannot even apply for loan, car loan, house loan, and everything been deprived because they don't consider you as a staff. You are just to fit in the gaps. And then once you're given, after serving for 3-4 years, given a permanent post, then even to post you, also they do not want to fund you because they treat you as a new post that to Sabah and Sarawak, you have to get your own tickets and etc. So there is a discrepancy in terms of the implementation, unfairness between the permanent and the contract. So if there's a fairness like in UK, in Australia, most of the professors even is the contract. 1 year contract, 2 years contract, no issue. But because it's fair. So I think that is the fairness. Now that I think if only the government can increase more position, JPA, Ministry of Finance, for example, increase position, we can solve this issue. But unfortunately, this was neglected because the views being given by us was not taken into account. For example, Ministry of Health suggested, the contract officers were given the EPF, for example, rather than no EPF at all. So I think, and also the opportunity to do a postgraduate education. But if you deny the doctor in terms of the perks, as well as the opportunity to do postgraduate education, who wants to stay back? One of the reasons people stay in the Ministry of Health is, number one, is the pension. Number two is the healthcare coverage. But now, if that is no more there, there's no reason for people to stay in the public sector. And recently, I think the minister also made a statement. It's no more 48%, 52%. It's almost 50-50 now. Private sector and public sector is almost 50-50. And private sector is beginning to take up, in terms of postgraduate education. You can see that IJN College, we have KPJ College, Universiti College, and then UCSI also going towards a postgraduate education now. So once upon a time, postgraduate education is only in the public sector, but private sector is slowly taking over. Because I think this is the issues, and it's not within the control of Ministry of Health and the DG. Some of them just ask me, oh, you're the DG, why didn't you make any difference and changes? It's beyond me. It's not my power to increase the permanent post, although internally I've been pushing for it, making a lot of noise, they don't even like me during the meeting, for example, but unfortunately nothing is moving. That's the reason why I tweeted, and the tweet is still valid today. More important, when a minister in opposition used my tweet, underfunded, understaffed, underpaid, overworked, overstretched, and our facilities congested. Question is, how do we solve the issues that we have? And we need to come together, sincerely come together, all the ministry, whole of government, whole of society, maybe to be led by the Prime Minister, for example, then only can solve the issue. Otherwise, it's difficult, it's beyond the scope of the Ministry of Health.
Okay, well, I see, Tan Sri. So, now back to Dato. You mentioned about, how Singapore is taking away our young talent. Even before they graduate, they come and they poach them. And also, but even these students, they feel happy to, be recruited because over there they get better salary and so on. And there are a lot of, doctors who graduate, they opt for specialist training overseas instead of Malaysia. So how should Malaysia reform its postgraduate training to better retain talent? And I would like to hear the perspective from both of you, starting from Dato.
So, Sada, if you notice, there was a recent report that said there will be a shortage of almost 13,000 specialists by 2030. And we are training at least around 1,300 or 1,400 a year. We are only 4 years from now. So we are not short of talent. So now the training facilities. Then of course you have a very ratio of training and the specialists, right? And the other thing, don't forget, with the private hospitals opening up, they are also taking away the specialists. Today, after finishing the gazettement, they resign and leave. So we can also see a lot of senior specialists are leaving the public system. So now who is going to train our doctors in the public system? That is also another scary part. Who? Because why? For for specialists, after gazettement is just starting. You still need to practice for a couple of years. So if you're going to leave, the system is going to keep on bleeding. We are only going to become bad to us. So now the question is that we know there's a need. That's number one. We know there's a demand. Supply is there. Our young doctors like y'all are very sure, I'm very sure many of you will have a very clear goals. Okay, along the way you'll develop your passion, you know what you want to do, and then you may change. Halfway is okay. But the important thing is that there must be a very clear pathway. Okay, you are a houseman. After 1 year, 2 years, more or less you'll have what interest you have. So if you want to do surgical, okay, then you have a very clear pathway. If you want to do medical, if you want to do primary care, you have a very clear pathway. So this is what Singapore is doing. So basically, it's not rocket science because they know these doctors, they're intelligent. When they go to medical school, 5 years or 6 years, and the amount of time they spend, they know this particular cohort, they're very intelligent and they're very hungry for knowledge and they're very focused in what they're doing. So all you need to do is just put a clear roadmap. So once there's a clear roadmap, they know. Everything is very clear. So thank God the minister has announced that contract system will be abolished. So at least the doctors will know, the young doctors, the future doctors from here will know that, oh, contract system will be gone. At least they know, oh, there is a financial security. Like what Tan Sri said earlier, EPF is there. You're not discriminated. At least one part you're settling is good. But now on the career pathway, that is for us, as far as MMA is concerned, that is very, very important. They have to crystallize. 13,000 shortage in the next 4 years. Where are you going to find them? You see, you can build hospitals. You can buy ventilators. But the people who's going to manage the hospitals and run the ventilators, they need to be trained. It takes years. 6 years of medical training, 2 years of housemanship, 2 years of MO, then you're postgraduate. So it takes at least minimum a decade to train a doctor to practice. So this is what I think is very tiring. We have been talking about the same thing for many years. Like what Tan Sri said, tweeted in 2017. After 9 years, we are talking about the same thing. So I think what we need to do is that the noise has to get louder. We have to make that health issue is not a Ministry of Health issue. It is a whole of nation and whole of society approach must be there and start pressuring the reform like what Tan Sri said in a proper healthcare reform. It has to come from the Prime Minister because the Prime Minister, JPA reports to the Prime Minister. This is what I told you in an interview with Astra one with Melissa Idris. I said, Prime Minister involved and he's also, the current Prime Minister is also the Minister of Finance. Okay, so these two ministries are very, very important for any health reform. Otherwise, Ministry of Health is going to suffer because they do not have the puncak kuasa. Penjawatan no puncak kuasa. So these are the issues we have to tackle and put the pressure.
Okay. How about you, Tan Sri? What is your take on this?
Well, I think certainly, we need to have a bird's eye view of where we are and how are we going to transform. So, and we can't compete with our neighbors. Once upon a time, our doctors, nurses goes to the Middle East. Now they don't need to go to the Middle East. And openly, I think our neighbors comes, and offer our nurses, for example, work 4 days a week, earn 20,000 ringgit. Now probably they earn 3,000 or 4,000. Stay in Johor Bahru. Transport will come and provide and fetch you to Singapore, for example. And your cost of living, that means you spend your money in Johor Bahru, transport been provided, you earn 20,000 basic without what they call the allowances yet, including the allowances. Doctors, medical officers earning 325,000 basic, and how are we going to compete with that? So when we look into it, in terms of opportunity for training, we realize that the masters, I'm from masters trainees, trained in masters, for the last 45 years, not able to fulfill the needs of the country, more so in Sabah and Sarawak. So what do? When we have all the masters program, you do not have the, enough, the volume. We want more specialists. Today, I think you read in Sabah, they need more than 6,000. Every state is short of specialists and doctors. As I said, once upon a time, Ministry of Health employed 2,000 specialists, not recognized under MMC, but they work in Sabah and Sarawak. Today is 0. That means you are moving backward, shortage of specialists in Sabah and Sarawak. So what we came in early 2010, for example, started the parallel pathway to increase the number of doctors, not to compete with the masters, but to increase the pool so that our doctors, postgraduate students have opportunity, join the masters or join the parallel pathway. At least we can have 50-50 and then increase the pool. If we are short of doctors, this is how we're going to solve the issues. And probably also, just like Singapore, they are short, they bring in some of the the specialists from overseas. So Malaysian, for example, coming back from overseas, train in UK, train in Australia, wants to come back, but they are not able to come back because not recognized, for example. I give you an example. A neurosurgeon practicing in Singapore for 5 years, being given associate professorship in Hong Kong University, Sarawakian wants to come back and serve Sarawak, and Sarawak is short of neurosurgeon, but not able to be registered. I was in Singapore 2 days ago. It's an ENT surgeon, trained in US, been offered a job in New Zealand, Australia, and in Singapore, wanted to come back because of her parents, not able to register. You see? So we raised so high the standard they cannot come back, and we are short. I can understand if you are enough doctors, enough specialists in the country, then we try to tighten. But we are short, and that is the challenge now. So once upon a time, I think a couple of months ago, we heard about to ban parallel pathway. That means more than 50% of trainees will be affected, and this was discussed in Parliament. You know, whether we want to take parallel pathway. We have 15 specialty been identified as parallel pathway to increase the number of specialists in the country. But I think it's not competing with the local, but complementing with the local. And the Ministry of Health had promised that they will send, you know, the postgraduate students to all the master's program until they cannot accept anymore. Then the rest can join the parallel pathway. And this is the one option. Now, if we deny the opportunity of postgraduate education, what's going to happen? Most of the doctors will eventually shy away and cross over to Singapore and to do postgraduate education, and also in UK. 90% of the medical students in Newcastle, Newmed, in Johor Bahru, they cross over to UK and they work in UK because their degree is recognized. You know, it's the top student of Newcastle comes from Johor, not in Newcastle upon Tyne, and their degree recognized. Those in the Monash University, most of them actually is recognized in Australia. They cross over. 90% of them goes to Australia as well. I'm the Chancellor of the University of Cyberjaya, and a few of the graduates, you know, upon passing, sit for Australian Medical Council exam, and they pass the exam, they do their housemanship in Australia. And the father called me, can I request my daughter to be transferred from Brisbane to Perth? I said, you know, I'm not in charge there, and then, but the system is that there's no federal system in Australia. It's a state that the government is the state that actually run the service. So after housemanship, after a year, now she is actually in Perth, and which means the degree that we have in Malaysia is also equally recognized. That means you have opportunity to work elsewhere, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Singapore, in UK. And this is where you create opportunity and you cross over to do your postgraduate education. When we engage with our students, you know, some of Malaysian students in UK and Australia, I told them, don't come back. You know, continue your education to become a specialist. Then only you come back as a specialist. Then otherwise you'll be competing with the local for a slot to become a specialist. So I think these are the challenges that we need to, you know, address, and hopefully the government can see this and everyone works together to increase. It's not about you, it's about the country, the unmet needs of the country. We can increase the pool of specialists, because all of you today, one day you want to be a specialist, but you must have the opportunity to be one. Otherwise, then there's no opportunity, then you will shy away and then cross over to other countries. Thank you.
Yes. I can't wait for the day when parents will finally say like, hey, don't go luar negara lah, just study in Malaysia, it's better here. I can't wait for Malaysia to reach that point one day. It is already too late for us to address this issue right now, but we do have time to join hands and to make sure this issue stops from getting from bad to worse. Am I right, Tan Sri and Dato? So we also, that is why, you know, Dato, you mentioned that we have to make noise, you know, we have to put pressure. That is why each and every one of you have to constantly be informed of what is happening here in Malaysia, so that we can keep putting more pressure. Who other than us who are going to be putting the pressure, right? We have to protect our rights. Anyways, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we know that many of you have a question of your own in your heads. So we now open the floor to ask questions to our distinguished panelists. And don't worry, your questions can vary from mild to hot and spicy. But do keep in mind there are some ground rules. Please refrain from asking sensitive topics. please ensure politeness and use the mics located at the side of the walkway. When you want to ask questions, introduce your name, your matrix number, and your faculty. The floor is open now. If there's any questions, please raise your hand and you can walk over to the mic. Yes, please introduce your name, your matrix number, and where are you from? Sorry, your faculty.
Hello. Okay, Assalamualaikum and good evening, everyone. My name is Shafi. I'm a fifth year medical student from FPSK, matrix number 210354. Okay, so so my question is, in by October this year, I will finish my, inshallah, I will finish my year 5 medical school, and then by jangan tambah lagi. And maybe by 2027, I'll start my housemanship. As both of you have addressed, there are a lot of problems with the current medical system, and a lot of housemen are not applying to housemanship, and the doctors who are already there are either very burnt out and even have resorted to taking their lives and such. What is your advice to my generation to how to not just survive my medical journey, but to thrive in it? And what am I supposed to do to change it so that my juniors can have a better experience than me, you, and in future?
Okay. Thank you for the difficult question, Shaki, right? Okay. Anyway, it's good. You must be very positive. October, you're going to graduate. Okay. Number one, you must be very positive. You see, one thing you must understand. As an association, my role is to tell the truth. At the same time, we'll keep on pushing and lobbying. And for policy changes, from our experience from the 1980s, it takes almost 7 to 8 years consistently pushing the lobbying and also pushing what we are looking at. So having said that, for the students over here, okay, as I told earlier, you should not make emotional decisions. The day that you chose to go into a medical school, it was your decision. Nobody put a gun on your head and say to go into a medical school. That's number one. Number two is that if you're funded by the government, I'm a taxpayer, that means I'm also funding you. Okay, so you must make sure that funding is not wasted. Okay, number two, if you're privately funded, your parents have worked so hard to put you in a medical school. So at the end of the day, no matter what adversity we have, challenges we have, we should not quit. We should not quit. If I'm in your position, I will go into the system. Remember this, I came from a poor family. Okay, if I chose to quit, chose an easy way out, I won't be sitting and talking today, right? So similarly, all of you, what you all should do is that you must finish your 5 years or 6 years. You must go into the housemanship, finish your 2 years. You must finish your 2 years of medical officer. Then you decide whether you want to do clinical, non-clinical, whatever you want to decide, you decide. Do not just because of news out there, you make that emotional decision. You call the hospitals and check and see. There are many places where it's still okay. So if all of you start quitting, do you think it's going to solve the problem? You're not going to solve the problem. That means you're quitting before even you start. Is that what the value you want to be? Next time you start something, you go into a business, challenges, quit. Challenges, quit. So if you're going to do that, that is going to become your value system. If I'm you all, I will take the challenge. What is so difficult about housemanship? What is so difficult? For me, that is what developed me. And today in my organization, I have more than 2,000 staff and I have more than 400 doctors working for us. So that made me tough. That made me to understand the motivation, to understand why certain people do what they do. So in conclusion, finish your October, make sure don't delay, don't go and pushing, go into the posting. We need all of you. Okay, yeah, so we need all of you. Okay, the part of pushing, we will do it. On our part, MMA will do it. But we want all of you to go into the system. Okay, don't be a quitter. Take the challenge, go in there, and let's change together.
I think at the end of the day is what do you want actually? See, if you want to be the best, right, you have to work for it. And certainly, I think an environment, a houseman, although it's tough, there's no doubt about that. But if you have the strong willpower, because you want to achieve something, you go through it. To be the best, there's no elevator to be the best. You have to work for it. The more you do, the better you are. Just look at, badminton players like Lee Chong Wei, the way he trains. Everybody wants to be like him, but nobody wants to train like him, for example. Every day without fail, 8 hours, 10 hours, just playing badminton all the time because he wants to be the best. That is your attitude must be right. I just gave example I was doing a housemanship in Universiti Malaysia. When I'm not on call, I still come to the hospital to see the patient. And I still remember my seniors, my specialists, when I'm not on call, he will call me, I have a micro case, would you like to come to OT to assist me? I volunteer to go to OT. Because I believe that the more I do, the better I am in a short period of time. So time is the essence because I want to be a surgeon very fast, and certainly at the age of 30, I'm already a surgeon actually. The first after houseman, because nobody wants to join the masters then, I joined the masters, and within a short period of time, I became a surgeon at a very young age. And then I became a breast and endocrine surgeon and continued my education. But people said I was crazy to join my department. Whoever joined my department is crazy. Because not on call, I will go back home at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, for example, not on call. Because, at that point of time, I need data to speak because without data, I cannot present my cases. So for example, I know thyroid surgery, you mentioned thyroid surgery and local anesthesia. GA time in most hospitals finish at 6 o'clock. Then I realized the nurses is still around because their shift is 2 to 9 o'clock. So they still have 2 hours. I can do 2 cases of thyroid surgery and local anesthesia. Because the nurses are still around. I don't have GA, but I can do local. Because GA time finished at 6 o'clock. So I still can do. Because I was rushing to collect data and cases. With the data and cases, I can present, I can go around the world in Australia, in Europe, and etc. to share my cases. You must have passion and sense of purpose. Then you know exactly what to do, and you have to work hard. And I always tell my trainee, you want to be better than me, I can give you the formula. You must work harder than me. Then you can be better than me, right? If you don't even work harder than me, how are you expect to be better than me? That is the key. So you train, the more you train, the better you are in terms of surgical skill, in terms of how you treat the patients, and then you must have the passion. And that's where I think can make a difference, whether you are just a mediocre doctor, mediocre surgeon, or you are one of the best in the world. So you need to have that passion to push you and drive you forward. I think that is the key. So if you have your ambition there, whatever challenges comes in, pressure and etc., I've gone through bully and etc., I still, my focus is there because, I make sure that I can reach my focus in, achieve my targets as soon as possible.
What you reap is what you sow, right, Seri? Okay, I know many of you have more questions, but unfortunately we are short on time. Please post your questions to our community. We will try our best to get the questions across. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have reached the end of our forum. Thank you to Dato and Seri for your invaluable insights, and to my fellow friends here today, to the younger generation. It is very important for us to stay informed, okay? I know we are studying medicine. I know it's one of the hardest curriculums out there, but we have to know, as you can see today, that our healthcare system isn't just driven by the skills of a doctor, but it is also driven by the law, the policies. So if we're not informed, if we don't know what's happening, do you want to stay stuck in a system that doesn't serve us justice? Do you want to stay in a place that you don't want to be? So that is why we need to keep ourselves informed so that we can contribute towards reform. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So the society cannot afford us to be mere spectators. So we need to make a move, and it starts today. Make the change now. Okay, that's all from me, ladies and gentlemen. Your moderator for today, Shasa Marina Mohamad, signing off. And I pass over the floor to Uma and Danish.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada saudari moderator dan para panel jemputan atas perkongsian sebentar tadi. Dimohon para panel untuk kekal berada di atas pentas. Semoga melalui perkongsian tersebut, ia dapat memberi suatu gambaran dan interpretasi baru bagi menggambling tenaga mengorak pembangunan negara Malaysia.
Hadirin sekalian, sebagai tanda penghargaan dan kenang-kenangan, majlis ingin menjemput yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Jailani Johari diiringi Div-Div kehormat untuk menyampaikan cenderamata. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan. Dengan ini, majlis menjemput yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Dr. Haji Noor Hisham bin Abdullah untuk menerima tanda penghargaan daripada Universiti Putra Malaysia. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada yang berbahagia Tan Sri atas penerimaan cenderamata sebentar tadi. Seterusnya, majlis menjemput yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Thirunavukarasu Rajoo untuk menerima tanda penghargaan daripada Universiti Putra Malaysia. Dimohon para tetamu kehormat untuk kekal berada di atas pentas bagi sesi bergambar. Majlis merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada Div-Div kehormat atas sesi penyampaian cenderamata sebentar tadi.
Sesi penyampaian cenderamata sebentar tadi, maka berakhirlah Inspiration Forum Medicine, Leadership and Nation Building 2026. Sebelum majlis menutup tirai, para hadirin dijemput untuk ke bahagian tengah auditorium untuk sesi bergambar. Saya ulang, dimohon untuk para hadirin untuk memenuhi ruang tengah dewan bagi sesi bergambar.
Yang berada di bahagian kiri dan juga bahagian kanan dewan untuk percepatkan langkah untuk kita ambil sesi bergambar. Kiri atas boleh bergerak ke arah tengah dewan.
Diminta pelajar di bahagian kanan mungkin boleh duduk dekat atas tangga tu.
Okey. Dalam kiraan 1, 2, 3. Lagi sekali, 1, 2, 3. Freestyle. Okey. 1, 2, 3. Okey, tamat.
Okey, semua orang tunggu kejap ya. Pengarah nak ambil selfie jap. Semua orang mohon tunggu kejap. Okay, everybody smile to the camera in the count of 3, 2, 1. 2, 1. Yeah, thank you so much everyone.
Kini tibalah kita di penghujung majlis. Kami daripada pihak jawatan kuasa mengucapkan jutaan terima kasih buat tetamu dan hadirin sekalian. Kami juga memohon maaf jika terdapat sebarang kekurangan dan kelemahan sepanjang majlis ini berlangsung. Dengan ini, majlis mengumumkan perarakan keluar tetamu kehormat diiringi oleh Saudara Rashidin Muhammad Lukman,